What you got?
Uh, all right. So the first thing I always have everybody do, which because there's people that watch these that aren't just on Crown. So, I have buddies that watch these. So introduce yourself, like tell me your name, where you live, and what you do for a living.
Sure. So, Frank Ball, I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I get paid to talk. That's what
So
I do.
what originally got you into cars?
So I've always loved cars. I kind of grew up without a lot of stuff. And one of the things, I think my uncle was kind of an influence. My uncle had a 63 split window Corvette, and I thought that thing was cool as shit. My uncle got me into riding dirt bikes, and then he had everything. He had like a Volkswagen Bug. He had he smoked a lot of dope. I remember that. I lived with him for a little bit. He smoked a lot of dope and had a 1970 something Dodge van with the cutout moons in the back and the carpet on the inside, with a bunch of Kragers had it jacked up. So, I think he kind of was an early influence. And then, I mean, fuck, who doesn't watch NASCAR, right? I mean, you got cars going around in circles, banging and smashing into each other. Back, when I was growing up as a kid and watching black and white TV, and that's a true story. There wasn't a lot of guardrails in race car driving. So, when you see Darlington and some of that stuff and Rockingham, some of these cars going over the edges, I mean, that shit just looks bad to the bone. So I always had, that love. And then I went to the military, went over to Europe and, I got to experience some of the European cars, which is a different thing completely. It's kind of like, what was the old thing? There once was a man from Boston drove a baby Austin. There's room for his ass and a gallon of gas. If his balls hung out, he lost them. Because every car over there was tiny. So Europeans put a lot more emphasis on road handling and road driving. And I lived in Germany, in the south of Germany and the north of Italy, where it's mountain roads and it's mountain driving. And you'd have a blast. So I think that's where it came from. And then later on, I worked in technology, scraping to get by, learning everything, passion for what I do. And I moved into sales. And it's kind of like when you move into sales, you hit the lottery. So I was very fortunate when I moved into sales. I did very well my first year, like very well. Bought an airplane and bought a car to leave. I was flying in the military up in Tennessee at the time. So I bought a car to leave up there, which was a little Miata, and ended up putting a supercharger on it and roll cage in it and all this other shit. I think I spent 2 weekends in Tennessee, and the rest of the time I was fucking around on every road course I could get the car on. And I went down to Little Talladega, which was owned by Harley Davidson by the time during that time frame, which was between Atlanta. I lived in Birmingham. It's funny because I lived in Birmingham. I moved to Atlanta, and then all this stuff happened, and it's between Birmingham and Atlanta. And ended up by going over there and did the solo one driving school. So learned how to really drive on a track. In the supercharged, Miata, which sounded like, you got to scroll by the balls, squeezing on it when you're driving. And when I was down there and I started talking to some of the guys that did this, and they're like, why do you want to do this? Why don't you go just do the parking lot solo 2 bullshit with your, little cheesy Miata? And I'm like, well, I'm interested in racing. And they're like, well, what do you know about racing? And I'm like, what I see on TV. And they're like, yeah, well, this isn't that. So I had some guys that, kind of, they hand me the SCCA GCA, the rule book. And they said, read this. You probably want to get a touring car, and find a car that's going to fit the spec. Well, right across from where I was parked was some guy that had a trailer that had 2 cars there. He had a 300 Nissan 300 twin turbo, blah blah blah, whatever, and he had a RX-7 in the trailer. Looked like shit, by the way. And he had that thing. He's like, yeah, I think I want to go racing, but I don't know, and blah 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 blah. And I start quizzing him about the car. I'm like, well, where'd you get the car? What's all this shit? And he had bought it out of Pennsylvania, I think. And I didn't know shit about racing cars. And I'm like, why don't you sell it to me? And he's like, well, I don't know. I think I want to race. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. So Little Talladega was the following year. And it's in the 90s, by the way. So Little Talladega was the following year. And I reached out to him and said, "Hey, dude, you gonna race this car or what?" And he's like, "Nah, I don't have fucking time." He's a lawyer, Jim Sennett, by the way. And he's like, "No, I'm dicking with my 300, putting bigger turbos and all this other crap in it." I'm like, "Sell it to me." So I think I bought the car, no lie, for like $3,500. And full race car. I mean, it's now. Let's be for real. Full race car. So Mazda RX-7 was gutted. Had a pretty good roll cage and a race seat, and that was about it. Still had the dash. Um, wasn't a fast car, but we bought that car and then went down to Roebling Road to the driving school. And I was a military pilot at the time, so by the way, in the Army, jumping out of airplanes, eating snakes, all this other bullshit for the first 5.5 years, and then I saw this cartoon in Stars and Stripes one day that had a grunt down there on the ground and said, "God, it sucks down here." And then you got a SF guy, he's like, "God, I love how much it sucks down here." And then you got a Ranger, "God, I wish it sucked more down here." And then you got an aviator flying over. He goes, "Man, I bet it sucks down there." And I'm like, you know what? Fuck all this shit. I want to go do that. So, I always had this, I wanted to do this crazy shit. And I love cars. So, went down to Roebling Road, got my provisional license, and went and did my first race. And after my first race, I was hooked. I went to Road Atlanta. I learned so much. I had a lot of people. The car community is different, right, Craig? And man, I could write a book on this, and you'll see a YouTube video we're about to drop from last weekend, and I'll digress and go there in a minute. But I will tell you, you just get people to flock around you, just want to help you out. And I try to give back. I try to do the same thing, as I get older and all the other stuff. But you get people to flock around you. And I bumped into a few good people that said, "Hey, if you're going to do this, here's a couple things you want to think about. Here's some pointers, yada, yada, yada." I was down. I had Kershaw, South Carolina. We raced all over the Southeast the first couple of years. We were running the SARC series. I have to think about this. There were two series. We ran three. We ran Pro IT. We ran the SARC, and then something else. And one was 1 hour races, and the other one was like 3 hour races, where you had 2 mandatory 5-minute pit stops that you had to do. And I ran them by myself. Some people had crews, and I kind of ran them by myself, and I was just kind of that guy. I was a stick hog. So I was down in Kershaw, South Carolina, the first time ever. And I'm hauling down, I asked down the front straight away. And and by the way, if you ever get on a racetrack, you really race. It's a drag race from corner to corner. You're flat the fuck out, until you got to hit the braking zone last minute and turn and hit the apex. And you're on the gas as soon as you can see the apex, tracking out, and go to the next corner. And I'm coming down the front straight. I get on the fucking brakes right there, and the car snaps and turns left and goes off the track. And I had no brake ducting on this car. I had standard rotors, which everybody kind of ran standard rotors. What you don't know, what you don't know. And I cracked a rotor, and I cracked it so bad that when it broke literally in like 3 pieces and caught the caliper and ripped it off the front of the car. So I kind of had no real brakes on the left front side either. So we get the car pulled off, and when I bought this car, I got all these spare parts. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what half of them were. So I go digging through there, rummaging through there. And I didn't have any brake, I didn't have any rotor seals, which I still have in my toolbox today. I still have RX-7, believe it or not, bearings and seals. But so I pull that thing apart, went and bought a rotor. I had another brake caliper in there with brake pads. God only knows how many miles were on there. Threw those together, and some guy said to me, "Have you ever heard of, I can't remember the name of the company, but they did this cryogenically sealing of brake rotors." And I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" And they're like, they cryogenically treat them, and then you don't have that stupid bullshit that happens. So by the way, you probably need to get a set of disc covers that have the inputs, and you need to run air ducts back into your brakes. And by the way, my reliability of the car went up, and my times went down. So I learned so much when I got into racing. And you asked me, by the way, what time it was. And I just told you the history and the origin of time and how to build a watch and how to tell time. But that's kind of my love and my passion for cars and how to do this. I got a box full of trophies downstairs. We won a shit ton of races. I can send you a picture. We won the American Road Race of Champions 2 years. We podiumed almost every year that we did it. The last year that we did it, we actually cut a tire down. And it's funny because I should have seen that it was coming. This is, I think, 2003 was last race season, and I ran everything that I could. And I love Pro IT and the RX-7. But we podiumed. We got a flat tire and literally got lapped and went back out. And I think in field of 23, we ran up to third place and podiumed in a 1 hour, because the American Road Race of Champions is a 1 hour race. But I digress. That's kind of the background on on the cars.
That's awesome. What was the first car you owned?
First car I ever owned was a Javelin, an AMX Javelin.
Oh wow. Okay.
At high school, I didn't pay a lot of money for it. You know, if I looked at it now, it's kind of like when you're a kid and you're growing up and like everything you see is massive or whatever, you know, and then you go back and you see it like, what the fuck? I mean, if I got that thing right now, you know, I'd probably like, what the fuck was I thinking? You know, it didn't have any rust in it, but I don't think it had carpet even before. But I think it was like the rubber mat, you know, shit inside of there. And I had that car for a bit. A long story. But that was the first ever car that I had.
Okay. What is I sometimes they coincide, but was that the worst car you've ever owned?
Yeah, yes, it was. Well, it's borderline, right? Because you know we've got this Alpha project that we're working on right now, old Rusties. Um, that's probably the worst. I don't know that because the Javelin actually didn't have, you know, it wasn't beat up or anything. So I probably would say the Javelin. Yeah, probably.
Well, the Alpha is your passion project, though. You love that car. You
I do.
might not, you might not have been truly in love with the Javelin like you are with the Alpha.
I liked the Javelin, but it was kind of something I got. But yeah, the Alpha is. I have a vision for this car. If we're half as successful in doing the shit in this car that we want to, it's going to be really cool. I'm on the fence of, you know, go fast and get it done this year for the crown season, or just slow down just a little bit and build the car right, build the way that we want it. You know, there's cheap and fast, and there's expensive and right, and the hard wrong and the easy right. And it's probably, you know, we'll probably back up on this car and slow down a little bit and get it right.
Yeah, good deal. So what? I mean, you've got a collection, but any amount of money, any time period, what's the dream car?
That's tough. Um, I'm such a fucking car guy. I mean, you could give me a Yugo and I'd find a way to make it fun and make it happy. No shit. Um, I, honestly, I think it would probably have to be an Alpha 33. And there's there's so many other cars out there. I mean, you know, the older Bugattis. I mean, I could pull cars out of my ass all day long. Um, but just something about that old Alpha 33 is impressive to me, or a Ferrari P3, which, you know, you say all the money in the world. I think the last one went for $24 million. And the problem is in owning a car like that, I don't think I'd ever own one, just in all transparency. And owning a car like that, you can't enjoy it. You know how many miles we have on the R8?
I'm sure you've got like a what, 150,000 or over 100,000.
So 2014, we got 105,000 on it.
Okay.
So we were we were driving the Suburban. We bought my wife bought a cool piece of furniture today at Restoration Hardware. We went and picked it up in the Suburban, and she's got the brand new Q8. She's like, "How many miles are on your car, anyways?" And I hit the thing 199,583. And she's like, "Didn't you replace?" I'm like, "Look, don't fucking jinx us, okay? Like I've sold this car to the business a couple times over, so you know, don't jinx us on this car." You know, and it works. It's a pickup truck with the extended bed on it. We can carry all the shit. Um, but I honestly, you know, I think I would err on the side of getting. I don't know that I'd buy one car if money wasn't an option. I think I'd buy 10. Um, and I'd go through and Craig, I'm a weird guy. Everybody knows that already. I'm self-proclaimed weird. I do something funky to make it my own.
Yeah.
If you look, there's a guy in over in Denmark or the Netherlands, uh, uh, Sacha Designs. It's something Sacha Designs GSD, and they're taking an Alfa Romeo 4C, and they've built a body kit for that makes it look like an Alpha 33, but it's today's variant of that on the 4C chassis. And like I see something like that, I'm like, you know, instead of going and buying a Hanger Queen, you know, Alpha 33 that you couldn't drive, or a P3 because you couldn't drive because you wouldn't want to, I'd rather go get something like that, wrap the shit out of it, put turbos twice the size of what's supposed to be on it, stiffen the living bejesus out of it, and go out and spend the money running, crown rallies and out there having a blast than doing something like the P3. So that's probably not the answer you're looking for. Paul Rody's asked me that question before, by the way, and Paul and I've talked about it, and he goes, do you think you'd ever buy like a Pagani or, if you had the money, would you do it? I'm like, fuck no, because if you look at the cars that I get, that's not me, right? I'm the guy that cut up and drilled on the back deck of a Ferrari and stuck a giant wang on it, and then put my own logos on there with the giant horse penis. That's me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we have a guy locally that I met. I met him on another rally I did, and he was in an Aventador. But he has a Mercy, an Aventador, and a Gallardo. And I was like, he's got to be one of those guys that doesn't really drive them. You know what I mean? Because some of those guys are like 10 miles a year, whatever.
Not our crowd people.
Yeah, but he goes, this has 50,000 miles on it. The Mercy has 175,000 miles on it, and the Gallardo has like some obscene number too. And I was like, okay, I like you because you actually drive. You don't just park them and start them up and look at them. And he's like, that's not worth it, man. So it's the same thing where it's like, I'm in the same way of why would you buy something and not drive it? It doesn't make sense. Like, I'm not going to drive. I don't drive the CTSV right now because Indiana winter. I don't want salt all over,
Right.
Yeah, but if it's dry, so no, I completely hear you. I think the same thing. Like, I don't know who had it, but somebody 2 years ago on Chrome had a Resto Mod old Camaro.
The gray one? Talking about the 60, there was a 68 gray Camaro. Yeah, oh yeah. I forget the guy's name. It escapes me because I'm bad on names sometimes, Craig. But yeah, that car has been on Crown even before we ever did Crown. That car was in the Crown Rally year before when they did North, and yeah, that thing's badass.
Yeah, it's something like that. Like you could take your dream car, and some of those guys want like the 68.5 or the 69.5 Camaro, whichever one it is. But then they just want to keep it in their garage, and I'm like, why not resto mod something that's like in decent shape and drive it? Like,
yeah.
It's so crazy. The same thing with like the Bugatti. I'm like, dude, I don't understand that. I don't understand spending that much money and just looking at it.
Well, I know people that have them to drive them, but I'll tell you, Crown West last year, and God, I can see him plain as day. Stocky guy had a white. He had a Lamborghini. It was an Aventador, scissor doors. It was yeah, I think it was an Aventador, but white with blue. And I know he's going to watch this hopefully, and he's going to look at it and go, yeah, Frank, my name is fucking so-and-so, you dipshit. But I mean, we're out there running, 55 miles an hour. Never. Across, these fucking shitty ass roads, and guys just right behind me hauling ass. We're spinning. My fucking windshield was cratered like a motherfucker. And we let, this, by the way, is not kid friendly. We had Brandon Tang, and Brandon's riding with us, and it's so funny because we're on these smooth ass roads, and like I wave Brandon around, which I didn't have to wave Brandon around. That GT2 RS just fucking goes. He goes around me, and he's hauling ass, and all of a sudden the roads go to shit. I'm like, good God, Brandon tore the roads up as soon as you got in front of me. But Tang drove that car like he stole it, and I can't remember the guy in the Lamborghini, but that's what I love about Crown Rally, right? Is the people that get out there. I mean, fuck. I mean, look at Vince's car. Vince's. Well, I mean, they were out there doing donuts in the damn cattle field, and picking up saw blades, flat tires, flat titties. I mean, they the whole 9 yards. He did his own rally that year. But these people love to drive. They love their cars, but they love to get in their cars. They love to do shit in their cars, and or there's shameless plug for Nelson's Garage, by the way. If you're in this, just make sure you go by Nick Nelson. Green Garage. He'll take care of you totally for sure. But shit, Nick is smart. He uses other people's cars and trashes them. We talk about where he gets his cars and what he did, but yeah, I'm into the people that really get the cars and want to drive, and that's why I don't see myself, ever, like you said, I give me 10 cars and let me make them my own, and let's get out there and share them and let people drive them and have a blast.
Awesome. I'm not going to ask you what the cars are, because what I'll do is I'll put a link to your YouTube channel, because you intro them perfectly. So, there's no point in us discussing that, because that way people should go watch your video, because your video is great. But what's your daily driver? Or do you rotate?
So the Suburban pretty much is the daily driver. Pre-COVID, so it was kind of funny. Like I got the car today, and we went and picked up a piece of furniture, and the first thing came on was change oil light. And my wife was like, if you just make the appointment, I'll take the car in. And I'm like, yeah, I can't let you do that. They'll take my man card away from me. But as long as you don't tell anybody. But I don't go anywhere. Like right now, I'm living on, I get paid to talk. I'm on this video camera, almost all day long talking to people, doing stuff that I need to do. So the Suburban's a daily driver, but the Porsche was when I got back into cars, I got the Porsche. The Porsche has 135,000 miles on it. It's an '06. But we drove that daily for a long time, and then we got the R8. I mean, I drove living dog shit out of that R8. I took it everywhere, and I didn't care. I bought that car. We stole the car. I put a 24,000 mile, 24-month bumper warranty on it. I'm like, break it, motherfucker. I said, I'm getting every mile out of this thing that I can, and I got a brand new windshield after Crown West that was covered on the warranty we put on the two. So, I do switch it up a little bit, but the Suburban, like my daily driver is a Suburban. That's why it's got so many miles on it.
I mean, I'm in the same boat. I don't drive that much at all, but I have a Yukon, and I love my Yukon. Like that's, it's practicality. It's all practicality, really. Like it's not practical to take a CTSV to a grocery store. It's got room, but I'm a little careful with my babies, like I'm sure you are. Like you don't want to park next to some random dude who doesn't care about your car and just slams the door into it. So
that shit pisses
right
me off.
on.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people give me. I've owned a lot of cars, and I've had a lot of parking lot road rash of people doing stupid shit. By the way, the Suburban, it's so funny. I become my dad a little bit. So my dad, when I was in high school, my dad had a pickup truck. I used to love that thing for a lot of different reasons. And he loved the back pickup truck, but a lot of different reasons. But it was so funny. I cleaned that damn thing every weekend and then, take it out on date night or whatever. And my dad would get in there and he'd like get a cheeseburger, ball the trash up, throw it the floorboard. Everything ended up with the damn floorboard. And my mom gets in the car and like there's shit just thrown on the damn floorboard. She's like, "What kind of shit is this?" I'm like, "I became my dad. I don't know why or how." The HVAC knobs in there, the heating controls, they're all kind of worn and shit. But if I went and looked at that truck I was going to buy, I'm like, "What the fuck? I'm going to buy this piece of shit." Right? But then it's my daily driver, and I don't give a shit. By the way, my daughter, when she was driving, it's a funny story. Because I've got 5 kids, and 3 of them are driving cars. The other 2 are driving us crazy, but they're driving too. But my daughter, right down the road, I think it was in our neighborhood that we're living in now, ironically. But she had taken my Suburban one night, and she came in. And if you're not a parent yet, when you become a parent, you got to learn to be patient. I'm still learning some days, but my daughter came home one night. She's like, "Dad, I scratched the Suburban," and I'm like, Katie, you just scratched the door. It's a fucking work truck. Like it's no big deal. I went out there the next day. I'm like, wait, where's the fucking scratch? Like the quarter panel's almost gone off this car. She had like run into a mailbox and everything else. So the truck's had like anything and everything done to it you can think of. But it's an awesome daily driver. Love it.
Right on.
By the way, one thing you got to know about me, all my cars, I'm a Pioneer head unit guy. Why? Because I love CarPlay. So every vehicle that I have, minus the Alfa and the BJ, because the BJ, there's no way to fit a double DIN unit in there or even a single DIN with all the knobs to get a Navi system in there. But the R8, we 3D printed because they don't make a radio surround for that. We 3D printed a radio surround to put put CarPlay and put a Pioneer unit in there. The Porsche has one, Suburban as well. I did the Porsche first, and I'm like, fuck, I'm buying one of these for the Suburban, and I put one in the Suburban too. So it's got good sounds and good Navi.
That's awesome. It's important. I mean, I was actually talking to Brad, not in the video, but we were talking a little bit before or after, and I was talking about how I couldn't fathom, because we went past you guys a couple of times on South, and we saw the headset. And I was like, dude, I couldn't do it. I couldn't wear that the entire time. But you guys and Paul, I mean, well, right, you're used to it. You're used to it. But, I mean, it's just like that thought of, like, 5, 6 days, whatever, hours on hours of just so.
Well, the funny thing is this: is I bought those. So we didn't have them on West. I bought them, and we did. Newell picked up the phone and called me, and you got to know, said, "Hey Frank, you're doing Crown Rally North." And I'm like, no, we're doing South and we're doing West because we're doing Force here. Because no, you didn't listen to me, fucker. You're doing Crown Rally North. Pack your shit. Design the car, right? Come up with our logo and all the crazy fucking shit that you do. Vince is on there. And I got the headsets for that because we knew we were going to have the convertible. And of course, be the dumb shit that I am. I put the headsets on, no hat, no nothing. Newell's got a hat on because he's riding a convertible all the time. I was the dumb shit. I don't like convertibles, by the way. I'm spoiled, right? So my forehead felt like leather by the time we were done. I had the headsets on and all this. We got pictures, and we came back, and I would like pull off chunks of my head. My wife was like, "You're gonna have skin cancer." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, gotta fucking die of something. May as well, Please, I hope it goes straight to the brain and I'm gone because maybe it'll wake it up." But yeah, the headsets actually work incredibly well, believe it or not. The Porsche has a lot of drone. So you don't hear the drone in the Porsche as much. That Ferrari is fucking loud.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been around. I mean, it screams. So it actually works pretty well, and you can isolate. And then you can have a conversation with the person next to you, and you can talk in a normal voice, and they can hear you. And we've got, you get the gel caps and everything. You don't feel them. Not a big deal.
Yeah. It was just, I don't know. I was just talking about that though, and I was like, man, I was like, I mean, my co-pilot, well, on South,
He was
drove me a
awesome.
little insane.
Great videographer, good YouTuber. He was awesome.
Yeah, but he drove me a little insane, and I gave him crap because he's had his side of the car, the AC, to the point where it said it couldn't go down any farther. So it was so cold in the car that I'm over here shivering. Well, and I'm cranking the heat up on my side, and it's still.
Y'all got a thunderstorm going in between you.
Yeah, I need to find plexiglass or something to build a partition or something. But so, yeah, but I was just thinking about having to have the windows down the entire time. And I was like, I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it.
Well, can you imagine Mr. Hui? Those guys were out there for Crown Rally North, Crown Rally 9. They were in a Shelby GT. They were, the Shelby Cobra. There is no top, and they're running that damn thing. There's no heat, no air conditioning, no cover if it rains. I'm like, damn, that's that's pretty freaking cool doing that on the rally. I'm too fucking spoiled for that shit.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's interesting conversations that were had amongst people about how you view which car you think is ideal for the rally, right? So obviously having a Ferrari, having a Lambo, having all the exotic cars is awesome. And then there's Cadillac Grandpa. There's just complete comfort though. Ride in the cloud, seats are comfortable, you don't feel anything. And I'm like, I don't know, man, it's a give and take. I'll be that grandpa, I guess.
Well, so it's funny. So I say different strokes for different folks. First off, that car out of the box has a shit ton of horsepower. They handle incredibly well. They're a muscle car. They're an American muscle car within their own right. And I'll never forget. I picked a customer up one time years ago. I worked for Cisco, and I had a Mercedes-Benz AMG 55. Which looks like the 300 or the 320S, whatever. So even though it was a 5 Series, you can't tell the fucking difference on a Mercedes. And I picked him up for lunch. And he's like, "Oh, is this your grandmother's car?" I fucking punched it. We smoked the damn tires off that thing, and I could drive, right? And I fucking came out of the damn parking lot sideways, whatever. And Ken Repke is no longer with us. Ken since passed. But I mean, I scared the shit out of him, and I said, "Grandma, fucking drive like that, buddy." And you could do that. That Cadillac could do that all day long, and it will light the tires up.
Oh, I'm not putting it down, but we were just having that conversation of just the GTs, the Ford GTs. I've ridden in one, and I'm not saying it was in the best shape. You know what I mean? He didn't do anything to the suspension, but I was like, I don't know if I could take 8 hours in that car. it's all different, and it is completely personal preference. I am not putting anybody down. I'm not putting down anybody's cars.
Oh yeah,
But
no.
that's the interesting thing about the rally, right? Is you see all these different things, and I'm just like, it's astonishing because I'm looking at cars and I'm like, I personally, that would beat me up so much that I would not be able to do it. So I give that guy major props for being able to actually do that and love it and still come out with a huge smile, because I am that guy that, like, if I get jolted around too much, I'm like, just let me out. I'll walk.
God, you don't ever want to ride with me then. I mean, I'm a smooth driver. I will say that. I'm not herky jerky, but man, we're balls to the wall. It's funny you say that because like my wife rides in all these cars, and we've done some pretty good road trips in the Porsche, and we went. That car sits in car storage right now. I swapped the cars out. We've got a car club and storage facility where we're a member, and we'll go up there on Friday nights and grab a drink and dinner. Sometimes they do really good food, and I had the Porsche out and we went somewhere in that, and she's like, God, I forgot how comfortable this is. She's like, this is a really comfortable ride. And I'm like, it really is. I mean, it's one of my favorite cars. And I'm like, it really is. It's just so reliable and comfortable. You can road trip in it. But all of them are different. Owning those different cars, I'll tell you, the Porsche's a driver's car. You're driving it, it'll bite you in the ass if you're not paying attention. But if you know how to drive that car, I mean, you drive putting dog shit out of it. Clayton Sheet, I know Clayton talks about going fast and all this other shit, but the first Crown Rally South we did, we're in the mountains in Grayson Bay. I got video of it. I mean, I was all over him, and he might be able to go fast in a straight line, but I can tell you, in the mountains, he could have just gotten the fuck out of my way 100 times, and and he knows that. Because that car, if you know how to drive it, you can haul ass and the twisties and everything else. Porsche makes a good car, and it's comfortable. It's comfortable, believe it or not. The R8's too easy. Comfortable car, not a lot of room in it. It's got big room in the seating position, but anything else around you, they have fucking room. You just don't. And the front is tiny as shit. So I mean, thank God for luggage service, because with the R8, you're kind of not doing it, or you're cramming shit in there and doing Ziploc bags for your underwear and sticking them in the front, and they're getting cooked at 135 degrees. The Ferrari, no cruise control. The brakes suck, and you guys heard me complaining about it, but we made do. We did really well. The thing fucking, we broke the exhaust or whatever. It actually added so much fun to the rally. It wasn't funny, but the car was comfortable. Like I thought the cruise control was going to kill me. I'm an old guy. I figured I'd have sciatica. I'd be sitting on my left ball or something, and just because it's not a comfortable car, but there's so much room in it. Like you have no idea how much room is in that Ferrari. And the front has a shit ton of room, and then the cockpit itself, like you're sitting all the way. You feel like you're driving a go-kart, because you're sitting all the way in the front, and then behind you. I mean, you can put a full suitcase behind you and still have room for other shit. It's wild.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm not putting anybody down. I'm just making the joke of, like, we were in this whale of a car compared to everybody else. And
I've done a few of these, and I'll tell you, like I told you, I'm weird, self-proclaimed, but I'm the guy that will get in line with people, and I'll look forward and backwards to see the cars. And I'm just like, how fucking cool, And I got a buddy of mine, Dale Vall. I'll call you out, Dale. I don't have one of Dale's shirts to give him a call, but Dale's a customer, become a lifelong friend. Dale bought a Copart Mustang. He rebuilt it. I helped him a little bit. He bought an F-150 Platinum and Raptorized it. And I'm like, dude, you need to come do a rally. Oh, I have a car to do the rally. I'm going to do it in your fucking pickup truck. I can't do a rally in a pickup truck. And then, of course, gotta keep Bohiki. I can't think of the guys' names that came out of out of Canada and brought that damn Shelby. It wasn't even a Shelby Raptor. It was the red and white F-150 Shelby that was just fucking amazing. They did it on Crown Rally South. There's Raptors on there. I'm like, dude, fucking bring whatever you got, right? Nobody gonna. If somebody judges you on the car that you have, probably need a penis extension. I don't know, right?
It was just interesting. And of course, it was South was my first one ever, right? So this year. And so Tom puts out the list on Facebook of all the cars on South, and I'm going, we don't belong in this.
Greg, you got to get Ryan Wheeler on the show. Did you see what Ryan bought? Lambo Dad? He bought an
Oh,
old, he
yeah, yeah,
bought an
yeah, yeah,
old
yeah,
Rolls
yeah,
Royce stretch limo. And
yeah,
by the way,
yeah.
I got a funny feeling that on Crown Rally South, if everything goes the way that we're talking in the background, we're like Reddit, by the way. We're like Reddit on GameStop. We're like Reddit on Crown Rally. I mean, there's a bunch of us that are trying to, that's why I want to do the Alpha. There's a bunch of us trying to do older cars that aren't that supercar that, we're out there just having a fucking blast. And I pray to God Ryan Wheeler brings that thing and he lets Brody drive it so I can try and pass him. And, that story, right? You've heard that story 100 times, but that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to a change up in Crown Rally a little bit with us. By the way, Alistair brought the first Crown Rally South I ever did. Alistair had a real looking rally car. I think he had a RS3 or RS4, I don't remember, but oh my God, what a fucking amazing car. I almost bought that car. I saw it up for sale and I fought back and forth. They have room for it, but I fought back and forth on buying it. And when you see people doing shit like that with their cars, it's awesome. It's awesome.